PRS, one of the few people in the Republican Party that is not running for president is our next guest. He is a congressman from Illinois, the 13th District in the Republican Party. Good morning, Rodney Davis. Thanks for checking in.
Hey, good morning, McGraw. You just ruined my presidential announcement. Way to go.
Well, no. I assume that when you do announce you're going to run for president, you will do it here on the show.
Absolutely. I'm so good at judging road construction. I'm actually down in your lobby right now because I didn't save an extra minute to get up and see you.
What's interesting is that there's actually road construction actually going on in Missouri since there's no money for transportation.
They're out on 270 in force, I can tell you that.
All right, there you go. Congressman, quickly, big news this morning that the United States, no one's talking about this because the world's being sucked up by Donald Trump, but it was announced that we are having full diplomatic relations with the country of Cuba. Good idea, bad idea?
You know, I've always been one to say we need to end the embargo and open up more trade with Cuba. I actually agree with the president on this, but this is really not, it's really much ado about nothing because we've always had the American interest section in Cuba, the Cuba interest section in Washington, D.C. All they did was change the name and put a flag up at the State Department that gave us an opportunity to say, hey, it's a new day here in America. Nothing's going to change from what we saw yesterday. But I do hope something changes in the future because I think that's what's going to be best for the Cuban people.
And wouldn't it be good for America to be able to trade and commerce and everything else? If it's good enough for the communist Chinese, why isn't it good enough for the communist Cubans?
Yeah, I agree. And we already do about $300 million worth of agricultural trade with the Cubans right now, and we need to do more because they're short on something we take for granted, and that's food. I have the same goal as many of my colleagues in Washington who are adamantly opposed to lifting the embargo. We both want to get rid of the corrupt Castro regime. We just have a different way of going about doing that. I think we need to end the failed policies of the last 50-some-odd years, and they want to retain them.
But what's interesting, though, is they say that, then they turn around and they'll trade with Vietnam, they'll trade with China. So it's not the communists they have a problem with; it's where they are. Why this island nation is 90 miles off the coast of Miami? Why wouldn't you want to trade with them? Sort of show them capitalism and how it works.
You know, I'm in complete agreement with that assessment there. But for many of my colleagues, this is personal. I mean, many of their families were driven out because of Castro. Many of them had land and property taken away. So I got to respect their personal issues with the Castro regime. But again, as I tell them, even though we disagree vehemently on the embargo issue and opening up trade, I got to respect their viewpoint.
What are your thoughts on you watch this deal with Iraq and President Obama? What are your thoughts on that story?
On Iran? And
yeah, Iran and Obama and the nuclear deal.
I thought he did something to screw up Iraq. Scared me there for a second, McGraw. I think it's a disaster. This is a prime example. I agree with the president that opening diplomatic ties with a country like Cuba, who has no intention of getting a nuclear weapon, is a good thing. It's 90 miles off our coast. Nobody's afraid that Castro is going to lob an ICBM at us or our allies. But I think our allies in the Middle East should be extremely afraid that some of the leaders in Iran would be crazy enough to lob an ICBM at one of our allies or at the United States. And frankly, if they don't do it, they might give it to one of the terrorist groups that they sponsor so well and pay for it. This is a moment in President Obama's administration where I think he wants a legacy, and it's going to be a failed legacy, just like Bill Clinton's legacy with stopping North Korea from getting nuclear weapons has been a failure that history has judged it.
What are your thoughts? But isn't the argument that if nothing's stopping them now from getting this bomb, from using these centrifuges, for using some of this plutonium, if we've got inspectors in there, as bad as this is, isn't it better than having nothing?
Well, it's costing the American people dollars if they are able, if Iran is going to be eligible to get American taxpayer dollars to help their country, to lift sanctions, to be a part of the world community. If they have yet to give us unfettered access to not only their energy facilities but also their military facilities, I think it's a mistake. If they have not agreed to enrich uranium only up to 3.5%, which is below weapons grade, then this is a failure, because all we're doing is giving them permission to go make more money, export more terrorism, pay for more death and destruction, and then watch as their leaders walk into rallies where chants of death to America and death to Israel are prevalent.
Everyone's talking about Donald Trump. I might as well you ask the question. You're a Republican. He's leading in your party's polls for the nomination. As you sit and watch this Donald Trump story, what are your thoughts?
Herman Cain was leading in the polls a few short years ago, too, and where's he at today?
He's a talk show host, so he's doing all right for himself.
Well, you talk show host. But still, he was running for president. He was leading, and then all of a sudden, he went down. The lead in any poll today in the Republican primary, because there are so many candidates, is less than 20%. So it will ebb and flow throughout the entire cycle. I think we have about 5 top candidates. You got to put Bush in there because of the money and his name and his organization. Scott Walker because he's going to win Iowa. Marco Rubio because he's everyone's second choice, which I think is a great position to be in. And you can't count out Rand Paul. Rand Paul has got a unique set of supporters that he brings from his dad's campaign. And then Ted Cruz, the guy raised the second most amount of money in the entire quarter. So Ted's going to have the resources to play in Iowa and play in New Hampshire and South Carolina.
Do you think Donald Trump should apologize to John McCain for his comments?
Absolutely. I think it's tragic what he said. I don't know if he meant to say it or not, but he's exacerbating the problem by continuing to be obstinate about it, and ought to be able to man up and apologize to John McCain for questioning his war hero status.
Rodney Davis, we're going to leave it there. He's in the lobby. We're in the studio. It's Southern Illinois Congressman from the 13th District. Thank you for checking in, Congressman. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy. See you.
7:58 here, Big 550 KTRS.